All right, welcome to the Iggles Landing Podcast, where you can get your Eagles and NFL news fix every hump day. And we are here live on YouTube every Wednesday, available on iTunes and Stitcher. So make sure if you subscribe to any of those things, you give us a nice little rating, some feedback. That definitely helps us out. This is our 7th podcast. And y'all already know my co-host here, Philly.
What's going on, Eagle Nation?
We are both repping Eagles, but today we have a special guest. He's a hero that works for those shadowy league figures of the NFL, and you can find him multiple times a week on the Around the NFL podcast from Cincinnati, but team agnostic and named by some as LA's most eligible bachelor, Chris Wesseling.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I don't know about that most eligible bachelor thing. I've never heard that before.
Well, you got a hot date tonight, so, you know, you're quite the hot commodity right now. So,
Well, let's hope so.
Name it and claim it, Chris.
you got to own it. Now, people may love you, but we're going to get right into it, man. I got to squash some beef with you.
All right, let's have it.
Now, I'm going to let the viewers know this is my first time doing a little squash the beef segment. It's something Phil A and I have been kind of toying around with. There's times throughout the season where people have different opinions, right? Whether it's the fellow fan base, an opposing fan base, or a player, or a podcaster, whoever. There's times where you guys just see things differently. And sometimes I feel like it's good to talk it out, see where the other person's coming from, and see if you guys can see eye to eye or level it out a little bit. So that's the concept.
Find some common ground here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just ambushing Chris Wesseling with this right away. Just boom. We about to squash it real quick.
There.
And, you know, I will lead into it because I'm going to shout out his podcast. It is one of my favorite podcasts, or it is my favorite podcast.
Oh,
lie.
nice.
Like, I listen to it every time it comes out. I'm subscribed to it on Stitcher. I haven't rated it yet. Don't tell Dan. Don't tell Dan that, the host. But I listen to it whenever I can. And this week I was listening and I had a little beef episode. Okay.
All right.
And I'm going to quote, I kind of summarized what you said. So it's not your exact quotes, but you know what I mean. So Chris said during the episode where it's titled, I think, NFC, something about the NFC East. Who's going to be the standout in the NFC East or whatever. So you guys were talking about my Eagles.
Who we were going to fork.
Yes. So there's this segment where all the hosts, all 4 of them, including Chris Wesseling, they fork teams. And what they mean by fork a team is they're done, right?
Yeah, no playoffs for you. Your season's over. The fans can go, play highlighter or something.
Stick a fork in them.
So they didn't fork the Eagles, right? You did not fork them.
No.
Okay. But here's something that was said by our very own Chris Wesseling. He said he would fork every team in the NFC East except Washington. Now, me as an Eagles fan and our team being at the top of the division,
Number one.
I had to sit back and say, whoa, Mr. Wesseling, what's going on here?
Well, we have to put that in context too.
Okay.
He misquoted already.
I've been a character on the podcast who is somewhat like me, but more curmudgeonly. And I was doing this out of spite because the other 3 guys somehow think that everyone in the NFC East is great and the Redskins are terrible. And my contention is the whole division is awful. Just a bunch of bad teams. So out of spite, I said, don't make me fork everyone else in the division because I will. Just to stick up for the Redskins.
But why them? Why do you have a soft spot for that team? I need to know. We need to get down to the real issue here. Your soft spot.
2 reasons. The number 1 reason is their Week 2 win over the Rams was the most impressive game by any NFC East team this year. For special teams, defense, offense, they dominated that game. So that's their ceiling. And if they can get healthy, get Deshaun Jackson back, get a few more other guys back, they have the Buccaneers and then the bye. Come on, they could be like half game out of first place going into the bye. So why not? They get healthy. It's just, and the second thing is, the rest of the NFC East, like, why hold them up as better than the Redskins? Because they're all bad.
Well, we'll get to that, but let me first remind you, for those of you that don't know, I would say about over a year ago, Chris Wesseling was on my YouTube channel, and we had a little debate over this Washington football team, and more specifically their quarterback, RG3, and that argument didn't go so well for you.
What was the argument?
So I just want to let you know your soft spot for this team has you,
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. You were right about RG3. You had some kind of inside info or some kind of feeling that he would be injured his entire career.
Okay. So I just wanted to remind you of that. Now, you say, they haven't given you – the teams in the East haven't given you anything worth, mentioning or thinking.
No, that's not how I phrased it.
Well,
I said they're bad teams.
You're pretty much just sweeping us under. Like, we're just like.
Many great things to say about your Philadelphia Eagles. None of them involve your quarterback or your $40 million boondoggle at running back.
Now, I want to know, can our defense get a little credit?
Yeah.
I love your defense. I wrote about them. I raved about them after the game.
So a defense like that, defense can carry teams. We've seen it time and time again.
We have. That hasn't happened since 2000. I don't know. Sam Bradford's not playing any better than Trent Dilfer did in 2000. And as good as your Eagles defense is, it's not the 2000 Ravens.
Trent Dilfer might actually be playing a little bit better.
That's fair.
Bradford is right about now.
All right. Well, how about if the Eagles beat the undefeated Panthers, will you have a change of heart?
Well, I don't know. It depends how their quarterback played because, from listening to the podcast, I believe everything revolves around the quarterback. And you're not a threat to anyone if you don't have a good quarterback, no matter how good your defense is. So it all depends on Bradford. If he has the game of – we didn't even have the game of his career. If he has the game of his season so far, then, yeah, I'll give them credit because I do believe in their defense.
So, I get you're going to fault him for his – interceptions. And we're going to get into some more elaborate Eagles and specifically Sam Bradford talk later. But my whole thing is it's still early. And the thing is, yes, he has been having some mistakes. But as we witnessed last week, he was able to recover from those mistakes. Or these past 2 weeks, he's been making the same mistakes but still recovering and still winning games. That's the difference. A bad quarterback will lose those games.
The defense won that game. He threw 3 interceptions. That wasn't Sam Bradford who won.
But he didn't screw it up enough. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, he wasn't that bad
wow.
that it lost the game. And it's only going to get better.
Hey, Chris, I got a question for you. Right. So in the NFC East, how would you rank the 4 quarterbacks?
Oh.
I'd say Tony Romo's the best. Then Eli. And then Bradford and Cousins. It depends on the week. Some weeks Cousins looks good. Some weeks Bradford looks good.
Yeah.
I'd say Romo is the best. Eli, I just always thought Eli was one of the most overrated players in the league. So I'm not gonna put him over Romo.
Now we can see eye to eye with the Eli hate over here. All right. So that's a good case for squashing the beef right there. But all right, we'll take your thoughts.
I thought you were gonna ask me to rank the teams in the NFC.
Well, go ahead and rank the teams.
I would put the Eagles number 1 because I think even if Bradford bottoms out, Sanchez can move that offense. So he's not going to be like a Brandon Whedon level liability there. So I would put the Eagles number 1, the Cowboys number 2, just because Dez is on his way back. Romo will be back. And once everyone's healthy, they should be the best team. Mm-hmm. Giants number 3, Redskins number 4, but they're all so close. Like, they're probably like 16 to 20 in the NFL.
All right. So ranking the Eagles number 1, doesn't that mean your phrase should have been you would fork every team in the NFC East except?
No, I told you I was doing it out of spite just to
all right. So
the other 3 guys.
You were just antagonizing, but that wasn't your real thoughts. All right. So see,
plenty of antagonism.
Squashed. All right. Very good. Thank you for that. Now we're off to a great start. I'm smiling, feeling good. Get to see my homie, hanging out with my homie. All right. Well, normally we get into the Eagles talk, but since you are the NFL expert, we thought we'd kick it off with the NFL news. So I have just a few topics here and just want to get y'all's thoughts on it. So first thing that sticks out to me, and me being the tech girl that I am, all up on YouTube, all up on live streams, all up on, this type of web media, I was really fascinated by the fact that the NFL has a streaming only option for this Bills versus Jags game in London. Like, the NFL, who seem to be this, I envision them as this old, dinosaur archaic beast that, internet, live
that's
streaming.
a fair portrait you painted.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And they finally got a YouTube account, and now they're finally allowing live streaming for a live NFL game. To me, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think there's going to be more. I think the NFL likes to do things. I don't know if first class is the right word, but they want everything to be prepared when they go in so they can do it at a high level. And I think they wanted to wait until the technology was ready for them to start doing it. This is a test, but I think there's going to be a lot more, in the near future.
Oh.
And if this goes well, Chris, do you think eventually we'll have an NFL franchise in London or in Europe?
I know that they want that. The owners want it. I don't know how that will work with a collective bargaining agreement or with maybe the players have to sign off because they'll be traveling so far. But I know that the owners really want that. So it would not surprise me. And I know just from our interactions with our podcast listeners, it's almost half and half versus U.S. and overseas.
I feel like that would cause such a huge disadvantage, though, for the team that's actually there. I mean, travel is exhausting. That will drain you physically and mentally, and then you have to play a football game on top of that.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be fair.
They'd have to do 3 here, 3 there, or something like that. And then what happens if they have to host a playoff game and versus the Seahawks or something?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's tough. That's the only reason why I can't really see it working out. Because again, if they do 3 here, 3 there, it's like they don't have a home for 3 weeks, and that's supposed to be your resting place where you can just kind of get away from it all, you know? So if you don't have that.
I'd like to see it just because I know how fired up our overseas listeners are, and they love the game. They are falling head over heels in love with it. And I love, they're so new to it, but they're so excited about it. But I think you're right that they have so many details that have to be worked out first. There's so many logistics that are going to be hard to overcome.
Well, I mean, for my own selfish reasons, I'd like to see it too. But we'll see what happens. But let's get into the next topic. And before we do, I want to shout out to the live listeners right now. NFS, I see you, Fly Eagles Fly. The Foiler lives. Damn, I'm looking good. All right, thank you.
Nice.
I guess I should read the comments before I say them out loud. And we got my mama over here. She's on the couch.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And she's waving hi.
Hello.
So if you hear a really loud sneeze, you know who it is. She has a really loud sneeze. I'll warn you right now. But I wanted to let the live viewers know that you can leave comments and questions for us throughout this podcast. We are gauging them right here. I'm going to read them before I say them out loud next time. And yes, next topic that I have, NFL, is the biggest, I guess the most surprising game for me this week in terms of the outcome, which was the Steelers beating the Arizona Cardinals, the team of the ATL, by the way, with their third-string quarterback.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things where the Cardinals hurt themselves with turnovers and didn't convert in the red zone, and that was the whole game because they had 150 more yards than the Steelers. James Harrison had a great game, three difference-making plays in the game. And then Martavis Bryant really carried that third-string quarterback to 2 touchdowns, and they ran away with it at the end.
Did you see this game at all?
I definitely did. Hey, Chris, let me ask you a question.
Oh.
We went down with, Michael Vick. This was probably his last opportunity to prove that he's a viable backup in the NFL. Do you think after going down now with another even apparent injury at this point, I guess he was nursing a hamstring injury, do you think we'll see another opportunity for Michael Vick, or does this pretty much seal his fate?
That's a good question. It was pretty telling that he wasn't picked up this year until, late August or so?
Late August, yeah.
But teams get so desperate for quarterbacks when you see guys like I remember Tyler Palko for the Chiefs and Brian St. Pierre for the Cardinals, or for the who was Ryan Lindley for the Cardinals. I mean, you get so desperate, and they pull these guys out of the mothballs late in the year. I could see Vic playing again in that kind of situation.
All right. Well, shout out to Monica. We have another female viewer on here. Yes, females do watch our NFL podcast. That's awesome. And Eric, talking about the matchup, said Mr. Landry Jones played like a pro on those last drives.
He did. Showed a lot of poise out there, especially for a rookie out there. Yeah, looked good.
So the question I have then is, we were kind of hyping up this Arizona Cardinals team as being, this really tough, almost unbeatable type of team. Now, are they a little less threatening now because of this?
I still think we'll see them in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think they're that good. You're talking about a game they lost, and like I said, they outgained the other team by 150 yards. It was just like St. Louis all over again. In my opinion, it's good to get that stuff out of the way in October so you're not dealing with it in December. But they're so clearly a talented team, and they're deep. They're so deep. Well coached. Great quarterback. What's not to like about the Cardinals?
Well, I know you like So the team of the ATL reference, Chris Wesseling is team agnostic. I mean, he doesn't follow a team. He used to be a Bengals fan, but, broken hearts has, severed ties. And now every year they pick a team to root for. And the Cardinals, which is like one of my most nemesis teams that I can't stand them, is their team.
Well, that's because they've owned us for the last few years now.
I have this running just issue with them. Like that, I need to have a real squash the beef with them and their fan base. But we'll hold off on that.
But you know what, Daniel, with that said, even after this loss, I think Chris is absolutely right. I just think it was just a few plays here and there, and the margin is really small. As far as margin of victory is really small in the NFL. So, one play here, 2 plays there, and all of a sudden, you're looking at Carson Palmer. He normally makes that play. He throws it deep, and it's intercepted in the red zone there. I still think this Arizona Cardinal team has a great defense. Right now, I believe they're number 1 as far as total takeaways in the NFL. They have a great running game, great quarterback. You see they have the passing options in the receiving course, so they're pretty deep. They're a well put together team, and they're well coached. I think they will go deep in the playoffs.
All right, so your view about the Cardinals hasn't changed.
No.
Seems like for both of you and me. I honestly didn't really watch the full game, so that's why I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it, because I just hope that, we play them, and I cannot stand losing to the Cardinals. So I'm just hoping when the Eagles face them that they do have this like Achilles heel that, Steelers can do it, we can do it. That's how I look at it.
Is there any team you can stand losing to?
Well, no. But Cardinals is the worst. And then I'd say second worst would be the Patriots.
Yeah. What about the rest of the NFC East?
And the Cowboys. Yeah, okay. All of the NFC East. But outside of the East, Cardinals are just
that Redskins game really stunk for me.
Oh, God. All right, moving on. Now, at the end of every podcast when we're doing the news, we would mention how the poor little lonely Lions were sitting there, all winless and everything.
Detroit!
But, hey, they finally got their 1 win. So I just wanted to give them a little pat on the back.
Yeah, and granted, it was against the Chicago Bears. But they did win, and hey, it's 1 in the books for the Detroit Lions.
It was just a little slap fight, and the Lions had Calvin Johnson as the biggest slapper.
There you go. Well, on the opposite end of things, we still have quite a few undefeated teams, 5 to be exact, and I want to know from you guys, who do you think will be the first to drop off? Now, I think you and I are probably going to have a similar answer, but I'm going to read off the teams, and we'll let Chris Wesseling go first with his response. Who will be the first to drop? We have Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati Bengals, Denver Broncos, Green Bay Packers, and New England Patriots.
Well, 3 of these teams have an advantage because the Broncos, Bengals, and Packers are on bye this week, so they won't drop this week.
Okay.
So I think mathematically you say the Panthers drop out first.
Oh.
Because what if the Eagles beat them this week? And I credit for beating the Seahawks. That's impressive in Seattle, but I think they played the Buccaneers each of the first 4 games, didn't they?
They played the Bucks,
the Jags,
an equivalent
the
team.
Jags.
Texans.
They're all the same team.
Texans, Saints.
Right. And
So-
I do think Carolina's good. They get Luke Kuechly back last week, and he played great. So they're strong on both sides of the ball. Cam's playing great. But I just think that receiving core is going to come back to haunt them a little bit. So I'm going to say the Panthers are the most likely to lose.
That was my answer as well. Now, was that going to be your answer? Okay.
Absolutely. Cam's doing a heck of a job right now, really playing some lights out football, seeing that he really only has one primary target, and that's Greg Olsen, who some don't even consider a top 5 tight end. With that said, they're finding ways to win. Granted, they're against some of the weaker teams in the NFL, but hey, a win is a win in the National Football League.
All right, so agreed there. Now, final topic, just NFL news or NFL talk. Will this be the end of Westivus this year? And for those of you that don't know, Westivus is being that Chris Wesseling severed ties with the Bengals years ago after many years of heartbreak. There is now, he has this almost holiday every
it's a holiday.
First playoff game of the season when
it happens every year. Every year, the first weekend in January, the Bengals lose. That's my favorite holiday.
Oh,
I was able to join him one time during Westivus, and it was quite a fun celebration.
It was great, wasn't it? It was so fun watching the Colts just beat them. Well, we knew it was going to happen, so there was no tension in the air. It was just like a joyous occasion.
Yeah,
it happens every January. I'm so thankful for it.
Now, my question is though, like it's got to end sometime, right? And the way they're playing right now, is there some concern?
Yeah, there is a lot of concern because I don't recognize these Bengals. I don't recognize the DNA that they have this year where they're not crumbling, they're not choking. The quarterback has poise. I don't know. It's not like any Bengals team I've ever seen.
They've got a lot of weapons, you know.
They're loaded on both sides of the ball. They're absolutely loaded. You know, they're still going to find a way to ruin it, but, you know, for now they should enjoy it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that was our last topic. We're going to cut a little short so we can get into some Eagles talk because that's, you know, for us, the most important topics of the day. Shout out to the Birds. He's been waiting for this podcast all day. Well, we've been waiting for you too. Glad you're joining us. Feel free to add some Eagles talk comments right now because that's what we're getting into now. Or some comments specific to Mr. Wesseling over here. Feel free. Any ladies, he is an eligible bachelor. Feel free to holler. So next up, Eagles. Eagles. My mom is asking if you're blushing.
Yes, I am.
Yes, mine certainly is.
We have confirmed for my madre over here. So, okay. Eagles versus Giants, Monday Night Football. Eagles coming out with that victory and taking the top spot in the NFC East. Now, I want you to go through some of your kind of storylines and topics for this game or what stood out to you, Mr. Phil, because you always give some great insight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a real big game, both for the New York Giants and for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, like you just said, we had first place in the division on the line. You got Monday Night Football. You got prime time. The whole nation's looking at you. The New York Giants coming in really hot. Winners of 3 in a row over Washington, the Bills, and the 49ers. You had the return of Eli Manning as an elite quarterback, some were saying. Really playing at it looks like the Eli Manning from the Super Bowl years. Eli, best ball of his career. He's playing in the new West Coast offense where he's getting the ball out really fast. He was the least or one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL coming into the Eagles game. Then you have the G-men who are averaging on average the last 3 games roughly 28 points a game, so their offense has been productive. A couple things to kind of keep an eye on this game was, and this is going into the game, was that the Giants defense ranked almost dead last against the defending the pass and was number 2 against the run. So you want to look at that, and you look at Sam Bradford, and, you know, he was progressing these last 2 games, and granted, you know, he's not playing anywhere near a consistent level of football right now at a high, not to say a high level, just a mediocre level. He's just not there right now. So with Sam Bradford and Eagles score versus that Giants pass defense, and could they take advantage of that? Then you had the Eagles rushing attack, which of course is been well noted that DeMarco Murray, and a lot saying that he's not a fit, in this particular offense right now as far as personnel wise, and then struggles along the offensive line. We've noted that all year versus the Giants' stout run defense. And so those were some of the storylines coming into the game. ODB played this last year, had 12 catches, a monster game. 12 catches, 185 yards. How is he going to fare against Byron Maxwell, the $63 million contract guy who we brought in to be a number one shutdown corner, has been struggling as of late. So, and then it was defending the Giants running backs. They were one of the top teams as far as running backs catching balls out of the backfield and really, producing as far as yardage in their offense. So that was the big game, and that was the storylines coming into this game.
All right. So, Chris Wesseling, what are your thoughts on this Eagles win? Yes, it was sloppy, but how you feel about this Eagles team right now and this Giants team, I guess?
I was really impressed with the defense. I had watched all their games, and I had really liked the front seven going back to last year when Connor Barwin started sacking everyone. Fletcher Cox emerged as a guy who should have been in the Pro Bowl. And Michael Kendricks, and then this year with Jordan Hicks coming on, still love their front seven, and I really like the safety tandem of Malcolm Jenkins and Walter Thurman. And for me, the only question is how are the cornerbacks going to hold up? So it was like a tale of two halves when you got Odell Beckham just dog walking Byron Maxwell all over the field in the first. To me, the Giants were just wasting time between picking on Byron Maxwell with ODB. They should have done it even more than they did. And then the second half, Eli just has no time to throw. I mean, he had, like you said, 4 sacks coming into the game. The Eagles get him 3 times. There's 2 intentional grounding penalties, and they hit him 3 more times. So just getting after Eli, controlling time of possession, and I just didn't think ODB had a chance to do much in the second half.
Yeah, I think it was a great statement by this defense to have Eli coming off of a 400-plus game, and ODB still tearing it up, and to just shut those 2 guys down. Like, to me, that's not a sign of the Giants being that crappy. It's a sign of the Eagles defense being that good. Now, one question that I have and Angry Raiders fan has is, why hasn't Jordan Matthews been more productive?
That's a great question. Hey, we've been looking for any receiver, let alone the number one receiver, to step up for the Eagles this year. Jordan Matthews has all the tools at 6'3", 220. He puts in the time, and he has a great work ethic as far as practice and staying after practice, coming in early, leaving late, always on the jugs machine. Had a decent game, 6 receptions, 60 yards, but again, kind of mediocre when you're looking at a number one receiver threat. Just not enough. He had the big fumble. He always seems to have a drop these last few games.
Every single game.
Just hasn't been really consistent for us. I guess if anything, I would say it's a mental thing, seeing that he's the second year in the league. That's the only thing I could really say as far as why Jordan Matthews is struggling right now.
I think he's one of the biggest surprises in the league that he's been a bad football player this year. He's like you guys said, he's got 4 or 5 drops. He got the fumble. Jordan Matthews having bad hands and being a little mentally out of it is one of the biggest surprises to me, because I think he does have strong hands and he is a physical player, and he should be mentally strong as hard as he works and as committed to the game as he is. I think it's just a slump. I mean, to me, I refuse to believe Jordan Matthews isn't going to be a good football player.
Yeah. I keep saying he just got traumatized week 1. Really. I think he's experiencing this like PTSD on the field every single time. And I've been waiting for it to get better. But
PTSD.
Yeah, it's like post-traumatic stress.
All right.
He got like freaking like just that game ending drop.
Yes.
Miss that ended up in an interception. Like, he hasn't recovered from that. And I think he's just mentally blocked. And like, that's something you can't really predict when they'll get over that. It's their own internal issue. And it's like, all we can do is watch and wait. And that's the most frustrating part. Like, if it's an injury, he can work, rehab and get better. If it's, something's off, he can like retweak his form or what, he could change it. But with your mind, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, it's like a kicker having the yips.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And well, Eagles know all about kicker
all
problems
about kicker
too.
problems. Hey, although Caleb Sturgis, hello, made 2 back to back in one game.
He's on a 1-game streak.
Right?
Hey, that was a big positive for me.
Oh my
okay, because I've been stressing too much about our field goals. So now let's get into kind of the biggest topic this week, which is Sam Bradford. I think it's kind of crazy. Like, we finally get back-to-back wins. We're finally back at the top of the division after like having a nervous breakdown at 1-3, you know, but Eagles fans still ain't happy, you know,
not.
and because now it's like, what about Bradford? And me, I'm trying to enjoy this win, but it's hard with everyone just kind of like, boom, like they are on Bradford. Like, people saying they want Sanchez in, and it's just like, Sanchez. Let me ask you this. Would Sanchez have been able to recover from a game after throwing 3 interceptions?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we don't want to go to Sanchez.
No,
We've
I know
seen what Sanchez can do. I mean, he's just as turnover prone, if not more. Bradford, this is really uncharacteristic of him as far as having this many interceptions. And it's short of, you know, what, 6 weeks in? Where is he at? 8, 9, and 10 or something right now?
Peyton Manning's the only one with more.
Yeah. And you see Peyton's been struggling. And like I said, so when you throw in, you know, granted, Mark Sanchez will probably move the offense. I'm in total agreement with that. A little bit better. With that said, he's just as erratic, if not more, from time to time.
I think he's more erratic and less able to recover from his bad games. Like, so Bradford versus Sanchez. Bradford was able to throw 3 interceptions, but still win a game and lead us, you know, to the top of the division, right? Dig us out of that hole. Sanchez, when he has a bad game, he reverts into this whole butt fumble, like, you know, clown looking type of machine, you know,
where he just Sam Bradford. You're using a 1-game sample size. So throughout his career, he hasn't been a guy who's going to recover.
We've had Sam Bradford last year when Nick Foles went out, and we see what he can do in the starting role.
Sanchez.
No,
you said Bradford.
Yeah.
We did not have Sam Bradford.
I think we know who Mark Sanchez is, and I think nothing we've seen from Sam Bradford suggests that he's better than Sanchez. But I think that when you made the trade because you decided Nick Foles is not a franchise quarterback, and Chip Kelly believes Sam Bradford can be, that he has that kind of potential, I think you have to find the answer to that. So I would stick with him for a while. You're in first place. You got a little leeway here.
Yeah, and I just want to enjoy it. So here I am just kind of looking at reasons to enjoy it. And what came to my mind, and I kind of mentioned it in my post-game video, was I thought of early quarterbacks that struggled but are now having success, or they're a solid franchise quarterback. And the first one I thought of was Romo, because we all laughed at Romo being that turnover machine, like where he had these untimely type of, you know, interceptions where he would choke, especially in December. And, you know, I was looking back at some of his old seasons. In 2012, he had a 5-interception game and other 4-3 interception games.
He's always been good. To me, that's always just been false narrative and people who just want to pick on a guy. He's always been a really good quarterback
who's had a lot of interceptions but able to recover. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
I think he had some untimely interceptions, but he doesn't have like 3 interception games like Bradford, not as often as Bradford does.
I mean, his earlier seasons, yes.
He's one of the most effective quarterbacks numbers-wise in NFL history.
Right now. But you look at his
Romo throughout his career. If you look at his completion percentage and passer rating and yards per attempt, one of the most successful in NFL history.
But you can't look at that because we have such a small data set for Bradford that it's not fair. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, he started for 4 years for the Rams.
Well, with my Eagles is what I'm looking at.
That's the key thing too.
He's been even worse with the Eagles.
Who had who, and who was protecting them as well. You know, it's like
you know what? No, I've never seen a quarterback in all my years of watching football who's had more excuses made for him than Sam Bradford has. They bring in Austin Davis, a guy who was not drafted, and his first 3 starts did things that Sam Bradford never did in 4 years, and he's doing it behind the same offensive line, same receivers, same running backs. Sam Bradford, whatever it is about him, people will jump over everyone to make an excuse for him.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think people are riding him really
no more
like
excuses for
they're
Sam.
giving him a hard time.
Throughout his career, when he was in St. Louis, they did that over and over again.
Oh, okay. Well, in Philly, they're not really.
Nope.
I'm one of the few. I'm one of the few trying to bring some positive light on this, and it's because I do see some potential, and I see that he's tough, where he's not just going to mentally break down. And so another quarterback I thought of, one that you're more maybe familiar with, is Andy Dalton.
That's a good one.
He's you guys have the scale where he was just kind of this mediocre guy and he struggled. And, last year he had some 3 interception games. One he lost, the other he won. And the year before he had 20 total interceptions with a 4 interception game as well. So, but you look at him now, they're such an efficient football team. They're just getting the job done. And you got to wait through those tough and those rocky, interception games. A quarterback that's strong and tough, like mentally tough, that can get through that down the line, they will be good. How good will they be? We don't know. That's the real question.
Yeah, I think that's the question, because for every Andy Dalton and Tony Romo, there are 4 or 5 Kirk Cousins and Rex Grossmans who have a lot of interceptions and never recover from. Exactly.
But you can't call it right now because so many people wanted to write off these other quarterbacks when they were struggling. And then it's like, oh,
no, I get what you're saying. It's too early to make a call, especially when you gave up what you gave up for him and decided that there's a chance he can be the answer.
Yeah, I think right now, definitely, you're stuck with him for the rest of the season. We've got to ride this out and see what he does. What I think the main concern is right now, and just speaking from a Philadelphia Eagle fan, is that we're looking at going to the playoffs. We're not only making the playoffs, but going deep into the playoffs. And like you said, and you mentioned earlier, Chris, is that depends all upon your quarterback play. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have this terribly inconsistent quarterback play where you're making the throws sometimes, but then other times in clutch moments, you're underthrowing or overthrowing, or, I don't know. It's just been making questionable decisions with Sam Bradford. Granted, these were supposed to be some of his strengths, going through training camp. And one analyst said he's the best quarterback. He's the best 7-on-7 quarterback out there. The problem is that this game is played 11-on-11. And, when Sam Bradford gets that back there behind center, maybe he's rattled back there. Like I said, maybe it's a mental thing. We've seen that even when he's not pressured and he's not blitzed, when he's had a clean pocket, he's still making some questionable decisions. He's still being wildly inaccurate as a franchise quarterback. So, we're stuck with this guy, but at the same time, he has to turn this thing around. The thing about it is, and they even quoted the great Brian Dawkins, they asked him about, are these mistakes that Sam Bradford making, are they correctable? Absolutely, 100%, But the thing is, he's got to do it, and he's got to show up. And now is the time, because we're getting later and later into the season where, again, there's not a whole bunch of space for a bunch of errors right now. And you're only going to go as far as your quarterback play. So we need Sam Bradford to really step up.
Oh, fingers crossed, man. It looks like a mixed review in the comments as well. Angry Raider fan says he thinks Bradford's just a little scared, maybe a little beat up, and but he thinks he is a good quarterback. He said he watched him during his time in the Rams, and he's impressed with that. Eric, on the opposite end of things, isn't so impressed. So I think it's just one of the things you can't really tell right now. And I'd rather take the better feeling road where I think he's gonna have that positive outcome versus the opposite side. So, because it'll help me sleep better at night. So
well, you don't need it affecting your life.
Right.
But before we close out here, we got to touch on DeMarco. This was his first real kind of breakout game where he got over 100 yards. It was 112 total on 21 attempts and 1 touchdown. And for me, that touchdown was everything. I think he needed that just to plow through, stiff arm these guys and finally make it to the end zone and have a big game. Like, to me, that was the moment that brought him back to this Eagles team.
Did you see the pose in the end zone? His little pose. he stopped and did a pose right in front of the camera. It's like, hey, I'm here.
I didn't remember
So, yeah,
that.
no, that was good for DeMarco to get back on track. This was his first game where he actually looked like a legitimate running back in our offense. As you know, he's been struggling running east and west. It's been well documented that he's a straight line runner, prefers running out of the I formation with the fullback. Unfortunately, we don't have that type of personnel, nor do we run those type of plays. With that said, he did a great job of making plays, hitting holes, showing good quarterback vision. So he was a lot more elusive. Like you said, you saw that strong downhill running, a lot of good stiff arms, breaking tackles. So this was the first, hopefully, of many. But this is his first game of rushing for 100 yards within our offense. So it was good to see DeMarco Murray get back on track.
Yeah. So the question I have for you, Chris, is, I mean, Dave L over here thinks we're going to get a lot more our running game going. So he thinks this was the kickstart for our Eagles in our run game, especially with DeMarco. So is the Giants defense that bad, or is DeMarco beginning to hit his stride?
Well, can I say neither?
Neither.
The Giants' run defense was number 2 in the league coming into that game. Jonathan Hankins is one of the better run-plugging nose tackles. They got Kerry, I think his name's Kerry Wynn, playing well. They got a good linebacker, Eckerd or Denard. I mean, I think they're a good D. I think DeMarco Murray just got hot for 2 quarters. He was by far in the second half of that game better than any performance he's had with the Eagles, but the man can't run laterally at all. And to me, they're playing the wrong back. Ryan Matthews is a much better fit in this offense and has outplayed DeMarco Murray all year.
Definitely.
Before that game, he outplayed. So I think they're playing the wrong guy. I mean, Ryan Matthews has been much more effective, and he's a better fit.
Absolutely.
Wow. Hey, man, he's been putting up the numbers. I'm always down with that. It's nice to see something from a guy who was so overhyped all season.
I don't think confidence will ever be an issue for DeMarco Murray. He's a physical guy. He can get in a rhythm when he's running people over. I just don't like the fit, and I'm sure you guys have heard that from everyone. But
yeah,
he can't move laterally.
Well, when I was, I guess, kind of mentioning the whole emotional side of things, where I think attitude can be a difference, though, with this type of player. And we were seeing some of his frustrations and complaining to the media about not getting the carries that he wants. So we started seeing this kind of downward spiral that could have gotten even worse had he not had this type of game. So I think what this did, it gave him his little breakout moment. It reminded him of, what he can do. And I think that reeled him back in to not kind of just being a complete bust. So that's where I see that.
Heck, and the offensive line, I mean, I don't think they're getting enough credit as well, but they've been improving in the last 3 games. Heck, they went against some of the top run defenses in the league. They had the Jets 1 week. They ran for over 100 yards, Washington, and now the New York Giants. So I think the offensive line is really improving and not making as many mistakes along in run blocking as they were previously in previous games.
Yeah, I think they're averaging 138 yards a game over the last 4, which is, the first 2 games, they were historically inept. So to go from that to 138 is a huge improvement.
So how are you guys seeing this Sunday?
Oh, against the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, we got to touch on it real quick. We got about 5 minutes.
Well, absolutely. I'll be real quick, but absolutely. This is another big game. Cam Newton and the guys are coming off a big win versus the Seattle Seahawks at home, like Chris mentioned earlier. They're going to come in, really high emotions, and they're going to be coming in and play. The Eagles got to really step up their game, and hopefully they can come out with a victory here. They've got to come out with a way to contain Cam, but at the same time, stop Cam's primary target, which is Greg Olsen at this time.
Oh, interruption. We might get a hot take from Madden G4D, who just walked in the door. Right. Hot take. You ready?
I'll just do it from here.
Okay, that's cool.
All right, so I don't know if it's a trap game. I don't know if that's what you call it, but I think, Carolina Panthers are obviously really high on beating the Seahawks, and I think we're going to surprise them with a big letdown on Sunday night just because of that emotional roller coaster they're on right now.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, the little Philadelphia Eagles, we just beat the best team in the NFC. Maybe arguably the Packers, but they're feeling really high right now. So they're going to be like, oh, yeah, our defense has it, blah, blah, blah. So I think just that level, that'll be enough for the Eagles to have a really good shot You got to block.
Right.
If we block, we win. That's how I see it.
Oh, we block, we win. I agree 100% with G4D. Chris Wesseling, final thoughts.
When I first looked at this matchup yesterday, I thought the exact same thing as G4D. Carolina's not quite a 5-0 good team. They're more like a 4-1 or 3-2 good team. And they're coming off this huge win over Seattle in Seattle. They're due for a letdown. They are. And then I watched the game. And, as good as Cam was, it was their defense that really impressed me. They've got Kuechly back, Thomas Davis, K'Wan Short, their defensive tackle, had an awesome game. Josh Norman's playing as well as any cornerback in the league. That whole defense flies to the ball. I think they're just a stronger team.
All right.
And they're playing at home. I would predict a close game, Panthers. I know they're ripe for the picking. I just think they're a strong, physical, athletic team.
All right.
Delia, your thoughts?
I'm feeling I like the whole trap game concept G4D brought up. Everyone in the comments, Dave L, Eric, Nadu, ECW, they're referencing the last season. When we played this team, we destroyed them.
Cam was hurt too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
I forgot about
he was
that.
playing on a broke ankle.
Okay.
That was the 9-sack game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely going to be different.
Yes.
And you're going to know they got revenge in their mouths.
That's true. Dang it, the revenge. I forgot about that factor. But I'm the hopeful, optimistic Eagles fan here, and I know that I think teams that don't have as difficult of opponents, leading up to us, I like to use that as a reason for us to be able to win, because a lot of times people get this kind of false confidence in the team where in reality they're not as good as we think they are. I use that case against the Atlanta Falcons, when all they had played was just the NFC East. And of course they look great, but when they finally lost, we saw, oh, okay, well, they are beatable. But I'm feeling not confident, but I feel like if our defense is consistent like it has been, and Bradford eliminates a few of those errors, which I know he's going to be, focusing on this week, that we can do it.
I think it's two really even teams except for the quarterback battle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would expect a close game, and then if Bradford can play well, then you got a chance.
Yeah. And he can play well. We've seen it.
He can.
Second
For a half.
For a half.
For a
If
half.
we can see the second half of that week one, Bradford, it's the potential is there. It can be done. It's just a matter of will they show up with the right game.
Yeah. But back-to-back primetime games too. I mean, the Eagles got to come out and play some good ball. It's going to be
Almost
interesting.
there.
It's going to be fun.
All right. Well, that's all we have time for, folks. I'm going to let Chris Wesseling go on. I know he's got some hot date because he's, LA's most eligible bachelor right now. So I want to thank
kill him, Chris.
We're going to have some fun.
This was kind of last minute because E-Rock couldn't make it. So thank you for being kind of that list, so flexible. And let people know where they can find you.
You can find me around the NFL online at NFL.com/news and at the Around the NFL podcast.
There you have it. Make sure you check them out. My favorite podcast, really. I'm not just saying that because we're homies. Like, it really is a fun podcast. Good personalities and yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to let you go and we'll close out after you sign off. So.
All right. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Phil A. And I'll see you later, Delia.
All right.
All right. Take it easy. Thanks for joining.
Is it Fly Eagles Fly?
Hell yeah. All day, every day. All right. So while we sign out, I'm going to play my good old soundtrack again.
Bring him in the back.
Yeah. Little outro.
All right.
Outro.
Brought to you by Madden G4D. Exclusive.
And remember, we are available on iTunes and Stitcher. We are here every Wednesday. around 6:15, 6:30. You can find us live on YouTube. And if you miss us, download us in the evening on iTunes, Stitcher. Make sure you rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next week.
Peace.